is God arbitrary, or does he give reasons for judging people in the Old Testament? Again, does he just wake up and say, Canaanites, don't like them, out, done, I want them dead? Is he like a cosmic mafia boss? Dead! Wipe them out! Is that God? What reasons does he give? Does he give reasons? Are there reasons that wipe out the Canaanites? What's the deal? What is it?
If they let them live, they'll assimilate their ungodly customs.
Okay, so he really talks about the ungodly customs first. If we let the Canaanites live, first of all, they're ungodly. And if we let them live, they're going to assimilate into Israel and pollute Israel and pollute the Messiah, and then that whole deal. That's kind of the argument there. All right, that's the thought here. Well, anyway, by the way, anyone know who this is right here? That's Molech. Who's Molech? One of the gods of, I think it's actually Molech is an Amorite god, but they're all in that basic area. The Canaanites had a number of gods, but Molech here is a god to whom the Amorites sacrificed their babies in a fire. This is child sacrifice. God gives them quite a long time before he decides that this group of people, these sinful people, should be dealt with. 400 years, it says in the scripture. The sin of the Canaanites have not quite reached their level yet, and so we're going to wait longer until he gets to the point he says, we've got to get rid of these people. Let me just read something here, and this is a new book written by Paul Copan called Is God a Moral Monster? Just came out in January of 2011. It's relatively new. And he deals with many of these issues in here. It's quite a good book. I don't know if I agree with everything in it, but most of it anyway. Here is what Copan talks about with regard to the Canaanites. And one of their gods was called Anath. And William Albright was one of the top archaeologists of the past century. And Albright writes about this god, Anath. Albright describes the Canaanite deity Anath's massacre in the following gory scene. Quote, here it is. The blood was so deep that she waded in it up to her knees, nay, up to her neck. Under her feet were human heads. Above her, human hands flew like locusts. In her sensuous delight, she decorated herself with splendid heads. Or suspended heads, I should say, with suspended heads, while she attached hands to her girdle. Her joy at the butchery is described in even more sadistic language. Her liver swelled with laughter. Her heart was full of joy. The liver of Anath was full of exultation. Afterwards, Anath was satisfied and washed her hands in human gore before proceeding to other occupations. I mean, this is real, nasty, barbaric, gory practice going on amongst the Canaanites. God is not just arbitrarily saying, wipe these people out. He's saying, this sin must be dealt with. One other thing about the atheists. How many times have you heard atheists say, if there is a good God, why doesn't he stop all the evil in the world? Right? I hear that quite a bit. And there's a number of answers to it. We've been through it in this session before, so I won't go into great detail. But of course, one of the answers I normally give, and gave it at a university recently, Michigan State, real antagonistic atheist said, well, if there is a good God, why doesn't he stop all the evil in the world? Why doesn't he end it? And I said, sir, good question. I normally answer it this way, that if I'm going to be blunt, I normally say, because if God stopped all the evil in the world, he might start with you and me, because we all do evil every day. The reason God doesn't stop all the evil in the world is because if he did, he'd have to take away our free will. And if he took away our free will, we'd have no ability to love. So this wouldn't be a moral universe anymore. One day, will God destroy evil? No. He will quarantine it. It's called hell. People will still have free will in hell, but they won't affect people who are saved. You know, it's the old, there will be a smoking and non-smoking section. And if you don't like the smokers, then you'll be in the non-smoking section. So I always hear atheists saying this. Why doesn't God stop all the evil in the world? But I find it kind of ironic that when God does stop the evil in the world by wiping out the Canaanites, they're complaining about it. You notice that? Here is an immensely, grossly immoral, barbaric culture. God steps in and says, all right, let's do something about it. And now the atheists are complaining. So why complain that God doesn't stop evil, but then complain when he does? Ravi Zacharias, let's take this to the modern day. Ravi Zacharias was on radio probably 20 years ago now. It's been that long. At Ohio State University. I was just at Ohio State earlier in the year, and he's been there many times, I'm sure. And he was on radio at Ohio State, and he said that the radio host was an atheist, so it was real antagonistic. And he said the phone lines were lighting up, and one lady called in and said, "All you religious people have an agenda. You just want to impose your morals on us. You want to take away our rights." She was referring to abortion. And Ravi said, wait a minute, abortion hasn't even come up. He said, let me ask you a question. He said, at every college campus I go to, I hear atheists saying, if there is a good God, why is there all this evil in the world? Why does a plane crash occur, 30 people die, and 20 people live? Why would God be so arbitrary to do that? But then, on the other end of the spectrum, I hear people coming to me saying that it's a woman's moral right to decide who lives and dies. That's a moral right. So when a human being plays God, that's a moral right, but when God plays God, that's immoral. Can you explain this for me, ma'am? He said that was the end of the conversation. We play God all the time, don't we?